So my guest today, Kate Ashcraft, calls herself the Bluegrass Skeptic. She is an author, podcaster, ESL teacher, political atheist, and secular humanist, religious and sexual abuse survivor, and as far as I can tell from her previous interviews, incredibly approachable and intelligent. In short, this chick knows her shit.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mind Show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected, intellectual intercourse of your life. Your host, Daniel Wagner, battles the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
And welcome back to another episode of the Unframe of Mind Show, where we have uncomfortable conversations. Today, I have my guest here, Miss Kate Ashcraft.
Hi.
Miss the Bluegrass Skeptic. So, aside from the little intro that people heard, you want to tell the folks at home a little bit about you, just to get to know who we're dealing with today?
Well, it's pretty much like you said. I am an author. First and foremost, that is something I've been passionate about my entire life, but didn't realize until my mid-30s it's something I really wanted to pursue. I try to participate in my community as much as possible with different activities, nonprofits, definitely an activist. No, you will not see me downtown at BLM marches and whatnot. I don't tend to get in the middle of those because I can't afford to be arrested right now.
I know that feeling.
So I try to be an activist in other ways. People are kind of not immigration friendly in this country. So I'm helping immigrants to learn the language and get here legally because we need intelligent people with masters and doctorates. I have my own way of political fighting back, getting people here as much as possible. And opening opportunities through ESL.
Very cool.
What else? I write fiction. I love sci-fi. I have an opinion about everything, and I'm open into listening to other opinions. I think it's very important. So I have very questionable people, like on my Facebook feeds and whatnot. But I think it's important to hear that other side, understand that they're crazy, where their fear is coming from, and try to find ways to work with it. Yeah,
that's incredible. That's one thing I really enjoyed about, when I was doing research and trying to get to know you through your social media feeds and through your videos and your other interviews. You had sent me a few clips. I couldn't pin you down, and I really like that. I couldn't pinpoint you oh, she's this, she's that. I couldn't put labels on you, and that's kind of the general realm where I like to stay myself, where nobody really knows what to call me because I have so many varying subtle different views and nuanced views on different subjects. So I really, really appreciated that. It made me a lot more interested and made you come off as a much more authentic person. You weren't just following along this like I have these boundary lines, this box I have to stay in, and to venture outside that box, it means certain political death. It's like that's.
I am a hard knocks of life kind of person, unfortunately.
Yeah, I like what you said.
Sometimes I'll make that wrong decision just because I need to experience making that wrong decision.
Right.
It's part of my process, unfortunately.
Yeah, I like how you said that you don't participate in certain political rallies because you really can't afford to get arrested. And
I can't.
I mean, we spoke a minute before we started recording here, and both you and I both have children, and that makes it kind of you tend to step a little more, tread lightly, when you have that situation.
I mean, I still set a wonderful example for my children. I really do. I can show them other ways that you can kind of subvert authority in a way that people can't throw stones at you, so to speak, about it, because you're doing it in a way that they're going to have to just straight up say, okay, I'm an asshole. I don't like what you're doing. And nobody really wants to do that. So it's nice. It's nice.
It's amazing. People they tend to hide behind their political ideologies until you actually pressure them on it. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. Let's see where the logical path leads here. There was something I wanted to ask you about this and what you meant by this. There was one quote that I had seen you wrote somewhere. It said, I'm trying to understand humanity one nut job at a time.
Yep.
That's fabulous. Can you tell me a little bit more about where that general view comes from?
This general view comes to the fact that to understand humanity, I think you really have to look at our flaws, not just what we do right. I think it's important not just review on past mistakes, but to look at flaws in thought, look at how easily we are manipulated, the psychology of how we work. You know, we're very interesting animals, and I do call us animals because I really think we are animals. It's just what we are. And we are very much influenced by all of these different things at different stages in our life. I really like to study extreme religions, including ancient cults, even cults as early as the 60s and 70s. I think I sent you the link on that. Examining cults really helped me understand, I think for me, the human condition. You know, what are we looking for in life? How do we find this? What are we willing to sacrifice for this? Yeah. You know, that's my process, and that's why I'm where I'm at now. Everybody is a bug under my microscope. I don't care how sane you are. I'm not looking for crazy stuff out of everybody. Don't get me wrong. But I've talked to some real loonies. You know, Jada Franson from Britain First. Oh my gosh, was that an interview that I'll never forget? So, you know, there's people out there. It's important to understand their rationale so you don't do the same thing. It's important. Right.
There's a lot to be said about the idea that some people, maybe it is that their purpose in life is to act as an example of what not to do, or what not to what actions not to take, or what behaviors not to display. It's like that there's
if you never
as much
see it, how are you going to know it's wrong? If you always surround yourself with only the normal or what you feel is normal, you're missing out on all of this other perspective. And it's so important to have perspective, all of it.
So as far as being a political atheist, what does that mean to you? That was one of the labels that you gave yourself. So that's why I'm curious.
For me, political atheism means that I don't necessarily agree with everything that a party puts out, or, you know, Bernie Sanders, great example. There's a lot of policies of his I support. There's other things I don't agree with, maybe with, you know, the way he handled keeping things divided, you know, the last election season. I know people were great and happy, and I even wrote a whole blog about how he could make we need to make Bernie great again, is what the blog was. And basically it was examining the fact that he allowed such anger to brew under the guise of like almost a month deciding if he was going to stay in or not. And that for me right there made him a shill, because you don't do that. You don't have to just outright say, I don't support this candidate, or you do, and move on. Don't let it brew for a month and let people get angry and angrier and stir up, because it's not productive.
Bernie Sanders, he's
not productive.
The guy who had this whole the whole DNC election rigged to against him, and then when he found out, didn't really do anything about it, just went ahead and crawled back into their good graces.
He had enough people that he could have effectively continued running on his own. He really could have, but instead he let anger brew. He was not a productive candidate in the situations he was given. Yeah. His best position is the Senate. I don't want to see him leave the Senate. He's great there. Let him stay in the Senate.
So as far as a political atheist, though, where do those terms come in for you?
Political atheist just means I don't commit to anything at any time to anyone. Everything is up for examination. Question everything, even politically. There's a lot of things I'm liberal about. There's also a lot of things I'm conservative about. I have feminists that love me, and I have feminists that hate me.
Yeah.
I don't try to find a wave to go with. I treat my political ideations as personal as possible. You know,
man, you and me both.
I want people to go vote, but don't go vote if you don't know what you're doing either. You know, I'm all about.
Oh, okay.
A good balance.
I might try to, if you'll indulge me here, try to correct that label a little bit, and it sounds more like a political agnostic, because you're open to the ideas, but you're just not really settled on one particular one. It's like I see. It's like I see all these.
Choose what I want.
Yeah. It's almost like a religious agnostic would be like, well, I see all these different religions, and I like a little bit of this one and that one and this one, but I'm not really sure. I don't really have the answers. I don't really know.
I'm sure that I'm never going to completely dedicate to one.
Right.
I'm sure I will never completely dedicate to one. So that's where the atheism comes in.
So I like the term, and I wanted to see what you meant by it, because I think that really apply. I think that would more apply to my particular views as far as from an anarchist standpoint. I am actually a political atheist. I don't believe in the gods of the state. I believe that people can solve problems on their own with their own, self-responsibility.
Yes, I agree with that completely.
Yeah, it's like we don't need the state, period. I don't encourage people to vote. In fact, quite the opposite. And a lot of people say, well, if you don't vote, you can't complain. Well, it's like, well, yeah,
That's not true.
There's other ways. Yeah, there's other ways to approach this than just through political action or through voting.
You have every right to complain and not vote.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything that's palatable to vote for, you have a right to complain.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the if you didn't vote, shut up. Absolutely not. I never agree with that.
Yeah,
Never.
I can't stand that because there's actually countries where you don't you have to vote by law.
I know.
You have
I
to
teach
vote.
students
It's like
that do that.
it's like if I have the right not to vote, that is in fact a way of making a political statement.
It's speech.
It's a form of speech, but people are so tied up in their political ideologies. It's like, well, you didn't vote and support my side, so you're the enemy, whether you voted for the other side or not.
I know. I've anytime I see someone drawing those kind of lines, I pretty much quit following what they have to say, unless they're also talking about flat Earth or vaccination issues or something.
Then it's just fascinating.
I might follow that to understand from an education point of view why they're acting that way.
I'm still trying to figure that one out. Flat Earth.
I know. It's really sad. It is.
From what I understand, that one may have been one of the many pranks started by on 4chan or on Reddit. a lot of pranks come out of that.
Anti-vaccination things?
Yeah, well, as far as the what was the other one? The flat Earth idea, and there's
I don't know.
Now there's a
I
no
heard about
space
flat Earth
movement.
when I was a kid.
Yeah, as far as really bringing it into the forefront and pushing it and trying to legitimize it is what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever hear about the free bleed movement?
With women and their periods?
Right.
Yeah.
Where they were trying to, they were trying to make a statement by just, not using feminine products. They were just letting it bleed out. Well, that was actually started by Reddit's fun audience as well as a prank, and people bought it and then they started identifying with it.
But you know what, though? Some good did come out of that because it did help some people become comfortable with their cycles. So that majority, it was like crazy, but it did actually help some women become comfortable with the idea of their cycles. There's women that see it as disgusting and offensive. They're brought that way. My mother was told her cycle was Eve's curse. Literally, that was the words. So I think, I guess I can find a silver lining in anything. I try to. And I think it at least brought awareness more about cycles and periods, even if it was kind of crazy and extreme. It still brought out a conversation on a lower level that was more natural.
Right. No, I get it. People are funny little things. They're funny little things, man.
It's super weird. It's like when the weather gets hot, everybody's angry. Don't tell me we're not animals, okay?
It's almost like down here in Tennessee where we had spring pop in for about 3 minutes and then winter popped in again and said, and another thing. I'm not through with you yet.
Here, I'm not that far away. We have the same problem right now. Yep.
Yeah, we live. I live over in the Nashville area. I thought.
Oh yeah, I've been down that way for NanoCon. Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool, very cool. I have not yet had a chance to attend that event, nor have I had the money to attend any events here lately. So that's okay. Yeah. We'll get it. We'll get it eventually. Just so happens the kids think they like to eat, and I don't understand that.
Yeah, I know, right? They like to eat, need their entertainment.
Food. Anyway, let me throw another question your way. Mm-hmm. You had the video on cults, and this is kind of where the political atheism comes in. That video on cults and the way you're describing them, and I was just sitting there listening to it, and I'm like, wow, everything you're saying could also be applied to political parties as well.
Yes,
like note for note. It's ridiculous.
I love that video, but I hate it because they didn't show the scenery, and I had ISIS in there as one of the political cults. I address ISIS as a political cult because it is. It is a political cult.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just thought I wanted to see what your thoughts were on the idea of,
1,000%, yes.
the gods of the state. So, back to that idea, just some of the things I noticed that were quite stark comparisons or parallels between religions and governments is that both of them tend to follow this hierarchical structure where you have one all-powerful figure at the top of the totem pole that knows all, the end-all be-all, can do all, and they get to live under a whole separate set of rules than all the underclass. Like the ruling elite. You have God, and you have his angels and his archangels. You have the president and Congress and the legislature and all the different political structures that are surrounding in that. And I just wanted to see what if you've noticed these things as well.
Of course, because almost the cargo cults that I mentioned, that's a political cult. Their bottom line was on the politics. They're trying to reclaim what was theirs originally before colonization affected everything, colonialism. Almost all these cults have a political background, which you had in Waco, Texas. That was a political cult at the end of the day. The purpose was political. They were using religion as just the method, the vehicle of disseminating the information and the ideas.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah. When
Jonestown was political.
When you take the political and the religious and you mix them together, that's even a worse thing.
We have that here now. We do. It's not as severe as some countries, but it's pretty bad. It's getting bad if people keep letting these things micromanage and putting God back in schools. It's like, we really need a law. If he wants to be there, he'll show up.
Yeah, right. So
I'm not worried about it.
That's where I'm looking. And as far as there's a reason we have separation of church and state, for this very thing, because the partnership just is nothing but volatile, and it's like two competing power structures joining hands against the minority, the underclass, if you will. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing we can do about it. There's no, except for have these structures in place that say, okay, y'all need to break it up. We're breaking up this monopoly between the two.
Right.
So what do you think about the idea of separating economy and state?
Well, I'm not sure how that'll work. It's going to take, I'm not sure how I feel about it, because I've been brought up in such a way that this is all I've known. So it's something I'm open.
Yeah,
I just have to see how it works.
you talk about a whole nother paradigm. You got to wrap your mind around.
It is. It completely is. So for me, I'm just trying to find a way to work things as it is before we even look at separating economy. We already have all of these other systemic issues, and I don't think separating the economy will completely work or maybe happen. Though ideally, it could offer some benefits.
Yeah, well, maybe. There's the question of practicality, based on how do we move from what we currently have to a completely alternate paradigm that people aren't even aware could exist.
Yeah.
And there's also the question of the morality of it all. Is it okay to steal money from one group of people and give it to another, regardless of what your intentions are? Mm-hmm. So there's the morals behind it. There's definitely that, and as far as the violation of the non-aggression principle. And I'm a big, that's one of my big core principles that I like to follow, and I like to be consistent with that. And that's one of those areas where you just have to say, well, guess what? It might be having the illusion of working right now, but
down the road. And it's just, you have to take in the idiot factor. When are we not finding someone somewhere trying to find a way to manipulate the system? For the longest time, everybody manipulates the system somehow to their advantage.
Now imagine if there's no system to manipulate.
I know, but how can you not create a system? Because there's always some kind of a system. Caveman days, I'm not going to kill Bob because he knows how to fish.
Oh, sure. It's going to
happen. There's going to be a system, and then it's going to develop again. I think it's a cycle that cannot be stopped.
I get what you're saying.
It's innately in our programming.
You're talking about like a major pendulum swing between tyranny and complete disorder, or between anarchy and tyranny, really.
Yeah,
is the problem, and I think a lot of people are okay with having some level of control over their lives from somebody, and I don't have a problem with that either. I'm talking about the scenarios where people have different sets of rules they have to follow. It's like, well, if we didn't have a political class that was obviously held to a complete another standard than the rest of everybody else, if we had separation of economy and state, for example, then the government would no longer have control over the money. As far as money printing and money manipulation and that kind of thing.
But you're going to see it bleed through in the other side of it. That's what I'm saying. Somebody somewhere will find a way to bring the old system over. They're still going to find a way to mesh it together.
Explain that. Explain what you mean by that a little bit, because you kind of lost me there.
Okay, so let's say we separate the two, economy from government.
Yeah.
People are still going to find a way within government and manipulation through people to still have the economy affected. I just don't see it ever completely separate.
I get what you're saying. As far as how they still are figuring out a way to have some church involvement in politics.
They're still going to have the camel's nose in the tent somehow.
Right. Yeah, I get.
That's the thing. it'd be great an experiment to see how well it would work.
Sure, I get what you're saying. I guess
I have a lot of doubts because to me it's more theoretical than practical right now.
Sure. I guess what we're talking about is minimizing the damage they could do versus just giving them complete control power over the Federal Reserve and saying, sure, here, destroy our money by 97+% over the course of 100 years since the invention of the Federal Reserve back in 1913. You know, for example, I'm sure you're well aware of the how devalued our money's become, and that's all as a result of having that power within the hands of our government. I know we've never
had as complex of a financial system as we do today, but the general principles, you know, supply, demand, the greater good of a country for its people, all of these concepts, they're timeless for us. They really are. And what is it they said that you could like start humanity over again and you probably come out with the same scenario again, like some kind of a god or religion. It's going to develop. So my thing is, I think it's a great idea, but long-term sustainability of a scenario like this, I don't think it's possible. I just don't think it's going to hold.
Well, I understand where you're coming from.
I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't think it's sustainable. And then what about that chaos?
I would respectfully disagree with you on that, but that's of course I've lived in this paradigm a little bit more as far as my own inner thinkings on it. And been exposed to it more. I definitely recommend at least imagine what it would be like and just take some time to really ponder on it. It's a fun idea to play with.
It is, and I think they even had a Star Trek episode that kind of represented this society. And I'll have to find it and refer you to it. It was a Next Generation episode that had this kind of a societal idea.
Yeah, I would definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, I'll get that to you. And it wasn't a disaster episode or anything. It wasn't anything bad.
Right.
But it definitely brought up a lot of those questions that Gene Roddenberry was amazing for. So I'll find it and I'll send it your way. It was really good.
Yeah, that's amazing. So one possible solution is, at least from my position, is as far as using blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. Have you been looking into that at all?
I have, and I've spoken with a lot. I have several Russian students. 2 of them work in security. They know how to get around blockchain. So
they know how to get around blockchain. What's that even mean?
Like they know how to break it. They say that blockchain is supposedly one of those things that can't really be corrupted because of the way the process works. They have ways around it. So
I would like to see this because I've been studying it pretty intensely. I'm actually
if I can get him to come on and explain it, because it's amazing how he was going through the steps. I only know enough about blockchain as far as the different steps that it goes. I don't really follow the market or anything in that. I'm more of an AI person and the ethics behind AI.
I would argue
blockchain is very serious.
Yeah, I would argue he's full of shit, because if he was able to do it, he would have done it by now, and he would be an independently wealthy.
He wasn't.
He would be independently wealthy and be able to hack into the Bitcoin blockchain.
Not if you work for Mother Russia, probably you would not be independent when you're a government employee.
Oh, I'm sure he could find a way. he could do it.
No.
If in theory he could do it, he could do it in practice.
I'll see if I can get him to get in touch and you guys can discuss. It's really fascinating.
Oh yeah.
It's super, super fascinating.
Now, I actually do work in the crypto industry. I work with another company creating some of these products, some of these solutions. And I don't know. I know that there's been a lot of phishing attacks and things like that. There's ways around it as far as intercepting the human element, where the human where people touch it is the best way in. But as far as the technology itself, I have never heard of it being hacked. I've never heard of it being attacked. As far as it's just unheard of. And Bitcoin's been around for over 10 years now. They just hit the 10-year anniversary a couple months ago, and not once has it been hacked.
Yeah, but I mean, when you get into quantum computing, though, that kind of changes the scenarios a little bit, I think, because I think just the speed with quantum computing, how is it going to fit in with that? Because quantum computing is really around the corner, okay? And you have to wonder, at what point can, all of this sensitive information be vulnerable, even with the different type of encryption that you have in place and all of these kinds of things. I mean, right now, all blockchain security that we have right now, it's only really been tested against today's computing power.
Sure.
Okay. Quantum computing is on the rise. It's a real deal. And I think that when you get into this, it's going to change things. And I don't know how well it's going to interact you know,
well,
I think, what is it?
I understand your concern. I would say if you think about it this way, it's almost the same thing as saying, well, I don't think we should really invent horse-drawn carriages. We should go ahead and just keep riding on horseback because eventually they're going to create cars, and those people in those horse-drawn carriage and jobs, they're not going to have the jobs anymore. It's going to ruin the economy. It's going it's going to ruin a lot of people's lives. You know, it's kind of that same general line of thinking that would stop any. I mean, I say we cross that bridge when we come to it. There are people actually working on that solution as well. As far as
also, because speed is key when it comes to some of with the encryption, and quantum can get those algorithm calculations fast enough.
It's still all theoretical right now.
It's looking pretty solid though.
could be. You could be right.
I'm excited either way. I want to see it happen because every time we say something can't be done, we do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just
now we've got these things right here.
Yeah, right.
Like, could you imagine being a teenager in high school and carrying around one of these things? Like, the potential in this is ridiculous. And all the projects people are working on, man, I don't think anybody's, I mean, yes, some people are stopping to consider the possibility of quantum computing and the effects that it could have, but at the same time, there's still so much work that can be done in the meantime that can help, that can,
try to shore up against
I'm excited about, not so much the US for blockchain. I'm excited about cryptocurrencies specifically as a blockchain application being used in third world countries.
Where I agree especially just to keep their hands on a corrupt government would be wonderful.
Right. See, because
it's essential.
Exactly. Their governments are way more obtusely corrupt, acutely corrupt, rather, is the word I'm looking for. Blatantly.
I just want to say blatantly.
Yeah, they're pretty obviously corrupt, and it's like a much more. There's the obvious incentive is there to transition to something like that.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you've heard all about what's going on in Venezuela.
Of course, because next door. Brazil has to deal with a lot of that stuff too. So I hear all about it.
Yeah. The crypto company I work with, there's a couple of guys that actually live down in Venezuela that are promoting this stuff. And he said it's so easy to get people to understand the value of it because when you compare it against their own Bolivar, I mean, the inflation rate is ridiculous. And I think we're going to see that coming up pretty soon with the U.S. dollar as soon as the rest of the world realizes that we're not going to pay our debts.
I'm still waiting to see what happens with Turkey because right now Turkey is taking such a hit too. They're like 7-1 on value.
Ooh, what's going on with Turkey? I'm not aware of this.
Oh, Erdogan. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He had that little pissing contest with Trump, but he's also making all of these policies that are further isolating their government. He's going more towards Sharia. In Islamic culture. And I don't know if you understand how Turkey works, but it's almost like two countries in one. The side that's closer to the Mediterranean and Greece, it's a little more secular. Mm-hmm. It's a little more chill. Any of the Islamic stuff that they follow, it's just cultural and it's not like the law to them. The other side of Turkey, it's very Islamic. And it's not done them a lot of good. The country's not investing like it should be in technology and growing its people. It's more focused on kind of like what we're talking about here, more Allah in school, if you want to call it that. But it's a problem, and it's made their economy $1 US, 7 lira.
Oh, what was it before? I mean, before it was 3-1, now it's 7-1. So it's wow, lost half its value in a matter of years.
$9 for a pound of potatoes.
Oh, Jesus!
Just saying.
Right.
Okay, potatoes. So it's a serious issue. All of my students, they're masters, they're doctoral students, and they're trying to get the hell out of there. I mean, it's bad.
I can understand that. Mm-hmm. It's definitely, especially, I think what we're going to see is a number of countries that are going to move away from the U.S. dollar as the standard currency, the global standard. Mm-hmm. And I know China and Russia and I believe Iran are all moving in that direction now. It's like, what happens when they do finally achieve independence from the U.S. dollar and start trading gold back with each other?
Really on tack for that, just with the way, how I don't know the exact way to describe it, but China is very slick. They've got it figured out. They'll do business somewhere. If a country can't afford to pay back its loans, China now owns part of those companies, the buildings that were built, the facilities. People have to go through China. Everybody's coming to China. China doesn't have to go to anybody. And it's amazing how they're pulling this off.
Yeah.
I'm just really amazed at over the last 15 years. They just zoomed up so quick and very smart business plan. I like how they do that. They don't deal in the IMF. They're just like, look, we'll give you money to build these projects, these buildings. If you don't pay us back, they're ours on your land.
Oh,
and
wow.
the people agree to this. Brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a really good hustle.
The wow. byproduct of not educating people properly on how this stuff works. It's insane. I try to educate my kids as best I can with, like, what's inflation? How's that work? I remember I took them. I was sitting there at my bed, and I can't even remember what the item was I was using, but I was trying to display for them. Okay, how does inflation work? If I just put a bunch of this item into the circulation, how much is that worth now? Okay, now let's throw some more in. How much is it worth now? Let's throw some more. How much is it worth now? And eventually it's like, well, these are pretty much worthless. They get it. Like, they see it and they get it and they understand what inflation is. And a lot of people, they hear inflation, they're like, oh, well, we have to have inflation because X and Y. And it's like, no, doesn't make any sense. I mean, ideally, like with like Bitcoin, for example, is a deflationary currency. Ideally, once, as it gains mainstream adoption, it would be deflationary, meaning you benefit from saving it versus right now. Norm. Yeah. With US dollar, I'm sure you remember a time, you're not much older than I, is when you could put money in a savings account and it would actually earn interest.
I know, right?
Like that.
Oh, those are the days. Now people think, oh, free checking, I don't pay fees. And I'm like, guys, it's not good. You need to be earning some money. It's at a point now, it's like, why save money in a checking or savings account? You might as well just keep it in your mattress or spend it. Because you're only helping the bank. You're not helping yourself. Absolutely. And getting people to understand that. It's like, why do you always have a low balance? And it's like, I'm not earning any interest and they're making money off of me. Yeah. Why would I do that?
I got a banking statement from my bank that said, oh, here's your interest that you earned on your savings account is two pennies.
Yeah. I've had a nickel before. I was like, wow.
Oh, wow. You must be a really big savings. I honestly thought about calling them back and saying, listen, if you need that penny that bad, you can have it. You can. I don't need it. It's insane. And that's why I guess that's part of why I am excited about crypto personally, is just like, because there's a number of ways that you're encouraged to save. I have, like, through our company, Airwire, you save up your coins and you turn it into a masternode, and the masternode helps support the network. And for doing that, you actually receive rewards for doing that. It's like, it's just like the proverbial savings account that earns interest because you're helping support, their company or the bank. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can go even bigger than that. And it used to be like, 30 years ago when bosses and employers would brag about how many employees they were supporting. They would brag that they were spending a lot of money on their salary and could give them these things. Right. Nowadays, you don't hear that at all. Oh, God, no. We have low employee numbers. We're super efficient with technology. It's the opposite side of that spectrum. Nobody is investing in anything. It's me and mine now. I got to take care of me and mine. You see that everywhere. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay to a point, but I mean, you got to be part of a community, and it's like, exactly. But I mean, the incentives aren't there. But I know that's my thing, and the whole thing, between systemic issues that we have between the justice system, systemic issues with the tax system. Yeah, it's very convoluted. They definitely need to slim it down and clean it up. This is exactly why you need to separate economy and state. I agree, but I just don't see how they can maintain it. Right. Well, no, I mean, of how people are. Yeah. Just human nature. I don't think it'll work. Human nature. It's not that this is a bad idea. It's just the environment you're trying to engage this in. I don't think it's sustainable. You got the idiots, Hey, you're always going to have idiots. That's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, check it out right here. If I'm a big company, if I'm a major company, my incentive is not to do it as you were talking about, how to employ a bunch of people and take care of as many people. That's not a measurement of success. My measurement of success now is, we got to go public and be part of the stock market, and then we actually are incentivized to gain as much money as we can on, as much interest and whatnot on that stock savings. Mm-hmm. And part of the job is to go and lobby government, because you get a ridiculous amount of return on investment for that time spent and the money spent, buying off politicians. And if you don't do that, you can actually be sued for not fulfilling your fiduciary responsibility to your investors.
Yeah.
It's like the incentives are all wrong, every one of them. So of course now you have a situation where the incentive is to have as few employees, cut as much cost as possible, get more technology in place. That's not the capital investment needed to run.
And then our society doesn't adjust for this change. So now they still say our role as adults should be work your 9 to 5, save your money, retire, kids, college. But it's like, how do you do that when the industry standards for employment are completely different? And that's where, for me, my big thing is the ethics of the AI that we're putting into place and the responsibility of companies. Do they have a responsibility to society in a supposed free market? Okay, I don't see this as a free market. I just see this as abusing
It's absolutely
people.
not. And it actually gets worse than that, because now the very problem that governments have created through creating these false incentive structures is now the new problem that they're trying to solve. Oh, well, we have a bunch of technology coming in replacing people, and pretty much automation is going to take over all the industry. Guess what? Now we're going to have to talk about things like universal basic income and pay everybody some money. It's like, no, you dumbass, you're the one that caused this problem to begin with.
Yeah, you should help to pay an offset to society. This is something I've told people. Every presidential campaign, I don't care who the candidate was. Yeah. They always say, I'm bringing jobs. I'm bringing back jobs.
Please don't.
It's like, you liar, because it's a lie. The jobs are already gone to automation anyway. These jobs that they say they're bringing back, they're antiquated. They're gone. They're not coming back.
Please don't bring back jobs. Please don't do that.
Shut the hell up about jobs. It's a lie.
I don't like hearing Trump say we're going to bring jobs back. We're going to have the best economy. Like, I don't want your help with that. What I want your help with is the one thing I do like that he did, where he's cutting what is it, like something like 22 regulations for every one new one they introduce. They have to cut 2, but they ended up cutting 22 or something like that. Something ridiculous. I'm like, that's where you can have the most beneficial effect.
Be smart about what you deregulate, of course. We don't need to agree that everybody should be entitled to getting a loan to buy a house. If you can't afford the loan, you shouldn't be able to get it. Be very careful with what you deregulate, but I'm 100% behind deregulation.
Sure, deregulate that too.
Useless things.
No, deregulate that too. I mean, check it out. If I'm a company who wants to loan out money to people who can't afford it, and I'm the one that does take the hit, then that should be how that works. But however, the way it does work, well, let them fail. However, the problem is now we have this thing called a corporation, which is a government structure that says, well, if I mess up running this business, then I am not personally responsible. The corporate structure is held responsible. Yeah. There may not be any money there. Yeah. So it's like, that separation of responsibility is like, I as a bank owner, I'll lend out money if I've got the government, for one, telling me they're gonna go ahead and back up every loan, and then if all else fails, I'll just claim bankruptcy through my corporation, and I'm not personally touched at all.
That's why I'm saying they shouldn't have deregulated that, because they knew they had a safety net to fall into, and they shouldn't have had that safety net there.
Yeah, get rid of the corporate structure, and we're good to go.
Sure, but up until they do things right, you can't deregulate that.
It's amazing how responsible people will suddenly be, and how careful and cautious they will be about who they lend money out to if they don't have
out of their pocket. If it's
if they stand the risk of losing their own home in the process. Like that's how you incentivize people properly.
Yes, personalized capital.
Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a fantastic discussion. I think that's a good point to wrap it up on. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up here?
It was good to meet you. I'm excited to watch some more. There's some things I agree with and don't agree with, and that's why I love watching your show, because I don't like shows where I'm going, the whole time. That's not good.
Right.
I like it when I don't always agree. So I think it's been a terrific experience, and thanks for having me on. And look out for me. I'm going to be releasing a book in May on religious trauma and all that fun stuff. So people won't know that they're out there and alone.
That sounds good. And where can people reach you if they would like to get in contact with you?
bluegrassskeptic@gmail.com.
bluegrassskeptic@gmail.com. You heard her, folks. All right. So we've just completed another uncomfortable conversation without a condom. How was it for you?
Oh, it was fine.
All right. Thanks for coming.